Hello, and welcome to the South Coast Artists Index, where artists, performers, and writers, as well as curators, directors, and supporters, anyone with ties to the creative community, drops by to introduce themselves to you. We'll talk about their beginnings, their vision, their passion, and so much more. The South Coast Artists Index podcast is brought to you in part by Heavenly Spirits, who invites you to celebrate the art of life and creative communities everywhere.
Hi, this is Ron Fortier with another episode live from AHA at the Play Arcade down in the historic district of New Bedford. And we're starting off the evening with Kat Knutsen, who's been pretty much a regular, and Max Wickemeyer, who's been also a regular. He's also our volunteer director of development and
sidekick.
And we're going to have an announcement as soon as we get our house in order about Kat in the future. Tonight, the theme for AHA is Kids Rule. And the question that we have tonight is, when did you get that buzz, that AHA moment, no pun intended? When did you just know, or, I mean, I've heard approximately 200 stories, and they fit into categories, and there are some, Paul Padula, for example, let's see, Paul Padula was episode 87. Paul was in advertising. He woke up one morning and said, I'm going to be a painter. That was it. He's in 5 galleries.
Did he paint?
He began painting and he's in 5 galleries.
That's an amazing story.
It is an amazing story.
Sounds like he made a hard decision.
I mean,
yes.
I should have asked him, did you ever wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to buy a scratch ticket and I'm going to win? You know?
Well, so at the Gallery X a couple of months ago, I met an artist, and I forgot his name. Kat, you might know him, and he does the stitching.
I can see his face.
Yeah,
and he for 25, 30 years he's fixing
the frame. It's a French Canadian last name.
Yeah, Levesque. No. But anyway,
40.
We'll figure it out. But.
So I met him at Lowe's. I was picking up paint for, I forget which project, but we got into a discussion about art practice, and he had recently started to dive into that practice. And then I started seeing his work at places like Gallery X and Art Museum. And when I ran into him, he would say, I'm really going to do this. He kept always expressing, I'm going to continue to do this. At Gallery X, recently there was an exhibit. He had like a half dozen pieces up.
Exactly.
What I loved about it, not just the work, but I loved the fact that he had an open access to who he was. He had this binder that had this information about his artist bio.
I thought that was great marketing.
His
awesome.
Previous shows that he had done, a little bit of the process. I didn't see an Instagram on there. I need to see if he has an Instagram.
David Poyon.
David
Thank
Poyon,
you.
yes. And
God bless the Google, as
Yep.
former President Bush used to say.
But he's got a solid follow-through with his studio practice, creating the work and getting the work out there. And so he's definitely got that passion and that healthy obsession and tenacity behind the work. And you can see it growing over the multiple pieces that he's created over the past year alone.
And became a professional artist as a new career, a la the other story.
Well, I mean, he's not here to defend himself, but there are people, well, good case in point. Ed Sheeran just decided to stop painting as Jackson Pollock. And there are a lot of painters who are like, whoa, yeah, celebrity, It's like, you know what? He's got the wherewithal, he has the opportunity, God bless him, let him do it. Is he harming anybody? Is he taking sales away from you? Say what you want. Oh, it's all part of the mix. I mean, I'm sure when Jackson Pollock started doing his stuff, which we all know, it was like, what the hell's that crap? You know, Jack the Dripper. And there's always going to be that. And we talk passionately about censorship, yet we say, oh, why is he doing that?
Yeah, we can get caught up in different
Opinions.
specifics, different ideas of focus and whatnot. So
Yeah.
it's good to learn what someone is doing consistently and what they're passionate about and how they're deciding to execute it and the inspiration that kind of triggered that or the inspiration that fuels that.
Yeah.
I find that part of the story really fascinating as well.
Well, I mean, Philip Guston, who was a Tier 1 AB-X, or in English, he was a top-level abstract expressionist. He was up there with the big guys. He wasn't second level, he wasn't third level, he was first level, okay? And decided one night in his studio, while trying to figure out, should I use the red or should I use the blue, how insane it was. It's the Vietnam War, people are dying while you're eating your dinner. And something snapped in him, and he went and started doing those, what people refer to as the KKK paintings. And, it wasn't until recently I realized why he was using so much fleshy tones. That's what it's all about. It's all about flesh.
You got to give more reference. You can't just drop that and move on to the fleshy tones.
Philip Guston, his family came from Poland, I believe. They emigrated to Montreal. In fact, a friend of mine, Bob Rudetsky, when we saw the Philip Guston retrospective at the MFA in Boston, said, "Oh my God, he's probably neighbors with because my family was from Montreal. He's a Jewish enclave there." And something snapped in his head. I mean, he lost members of his family in the death camps. And between segregation, Jim Crow, Vietnam, all the stuff just started to bear down on him, and he decided, I've got to do something that I feel is right. And he got a lot of crap for it, and the only guy that actually defended him, the only painter that defended him, of all people, who himself has been vilified as a misogynist and so on and so forth, was de Kooning. So, I'm wondering about, when does this stuff start? Does it start in childhood? Does this need to express yourself, this need to record memories, record experiences? How did it start for you? I know you went into nursing originally, right?
Right. I went into nursing as a very safe option, and I transitioned into the arts, having a spontaneous introduction to it, and I really loved the sensation that came from that introduction. And being the first in my family to go to college, I kind of floored it like gas pedal,
Yeah.
and went straight through the community college program, bachelor program, MFA program. And I remember wanting to be very similar to that opened my eyes to it, and they happened to be community college professors. And so that's kind of the direction that I went in. And I remember as soon as I got the MFA, I was hired at Bristol like less than a year later. And I've been there for 10 years now. And I teach foundations and digital media, and which is really cool because right now we're in a time where social media is extremely rampant everywhere. So I teach digital media, time-based media, and we talk things like symbolism, sequences, video editing, sound design, sampling, also storytelling. And so, but then having a background in painting, there's that traditional media approach.
It all starts with a story.
Yeah, it does. Well, my story, in the sense, was I would love to be able to expose more people to the fact that they can become what they enjoy being if they put the work in. But it happened to be a series of art professors that gave me that idea. So I went in the art direction. And so I think if that would have been like a chemistry professor or a biology or history, I might have gone in those directions because I'm very systematic as a person.
Right.
Very much about like, if you take this cluster of information and organize it, you take this intention and this goal set and you organize it. That's kind of how I operate more by, autopilot in a way.
Or concrete sequential.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when I learn about artists, I find it fascinating to first see what kind of they're creating, how are they presenting the work, the process they're using, how they arrived at that process, inspiration sources, and then also other artists that they find fascinating and that's influencing their work. So recently my painting practice, it's still going, but it's evolved a lot more into like community engagement practice, archiving practice with the Siren, where I'm always interviewing artists and always trying to promote things that are going on in the creative scene. But I do all those things from a very almost like systematic approach. Like with painting, I'll be inspired by a moment. Like I have a little photography background, so I'll be inspired by a moment. Like you two, for example, I've got to tell the audience about this. Y'all are in a very perfect, like, symmetrical position right now. You're wearing the same shirts, khaki pants. You've got the cool like leg lamp in between the two of you. Like this is such a painterly moment. So, and it's also a moment happening in time, and it's this very important, powerful podcast. So it's got a historic element to it. So those kinds of things always catch my eye. Yeah. My parents were into photography and video documenting, so there's that. But it's just little bits of stuff that I think inspire artists, creatives, and then they find ways to take what inspires them and integrate it to their practice, whatever that creative practice is, which I think if everyone had the opportunity to have a creative practice within themselves, it doesn't have to be extravagant, excessive. It could be just a simple act of allowing themselves to be present enough to observe what gets their attention, then try to figure out why does that get their attention and allow themselves to kind of explore that more. And if they're lucky enough to have the time to develop a skill set of some sort to be able to go further in that direction, to be of service of some sort, then you got alchemy going on.
Well, I think that's what makes outsider art, to use that term, which is now poo-pooed as a term. I don't know what's supposed to replace it.
Who's poo-pooing it?
Oh, there's always somebody who wants to alter.
Well, crap on somebody.
Well,
we'll use that phrase because it's accurate.
I forget his name, but there was a guy that put that in a can, and he called it art, and he sold it. It was in the 80s. Do you remember that guy?
Yeah, the Mère d'Artiste. Yeah, so meaning Mère d'Artiste. He was Italian. It was the shit of the artist in a tuna fish can.
Yep.
Okay. And again, art doesn't advance if it stays treading water. It has to take leaps and so on. And you're talking, so back to the outsider art, there's also naive art. And now with, and again, it gets into this really murky zone about black art, which I'm really getting aggravated with the terms. We're all artists, but we have to categorize, we have to label. So there's a lot of these people who, in the African American community, completely unschooled, untrained, so on and so forth. But they got cardboard, they had paint, they had some brushes, and they started painting stuff. And now they're being discovered, but if you look at their work, the reason why it's so fresh and clean, and again, this is with all praise and honor, they didn't know any better. They didn't go in, Philip Guston would say he'd go into the studio with, 4 or 5 people, meaning in his head. His instructors, his family, whatever, and one by one they would leave, and then when he left,
that's when the art started
the art started happening. And that is so incredibly important. I mean, myself, I'm walking the dog, which is my best therapy. She's also my therapist. She's really, really good. She senses things, but her name is Snickers. She's a mixed breed rescue. But I'll be walking along, minding my own business, and all of a sudden, bang! Oh, damn, I never thought of that before. I've got this painting I've been doing of Joshua Slocum. It was a grant-funded painting, a triptych. The center, or the medallion piece, has been driving me insane. And I learned that even though I'm not physically painting, I am still painting. I look at it, I keep painting it in my head, in my sleep, in my dreams. And because I'm not listening to it, I want it to be something it does not want to be. So explaining this to people who are not artists, they're looking at you like, yeah,
I heard something really neat recently. I was interviewing one of the artists, Joe Vox, who's one of the guide directors. And during his interview, one of the things that I got that was really inspiring, he'll draw random samples of nature Like, he'll go on walks like you're talking about, Ron, and he'll just kind of find a random patch of something, and just kind of draw it. And because the reason I wanted to interview him to begin with is because his designs are incredible spatially. He has all sorts of leading lines, framing, the way that he draws the eyes into different directions of the composition in his paintings. I'm like, how do you do that? I know you have a background in storyboard and animation, but when you're painting, what's coming to mind as you're designing these like wide spaces? And he says, well, he takes walks out, and he just looks at what's going on in nature. It's chaos. And I'm like, you've got a really strong point there. So he just takes samples, of what's going on, and it's not organized at all. And so he pulls from that, and it gives these really strong ideas of what to do in his case, like compositionally and spatially. So I love what you're talking about, going on walks and then just getting hit with these moments of inspiration. And they're fresh. They're like a culmination or a distillation of all the things that are going on in your mind at the subconscious level, and it just like comes together.
And you're creating something out of the chaos.
Yes.
That's the thing. That's what the creative is all about. The creative moment is taking the chaos out of the subconscious into the conscious and putting it onto something that is
tangible. It's tangible.
It's
Yes.
tangible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they teach a lot of things in college, but they don't teach this. They don't teach this.
That's why they have to listen to us.
I went to see the Cape Verdean show, at the Whaling Museum.
I want to see that hugely.
I'm getting choked up trying to talk about it. Because it's not just pigment on paper or substrate. It's a culture. It's a blood. It's a DNA. It's so much more. It's a representation of a people. I mean,
and it's current and it's historic as well.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what's amazing about it. And the way you described it, I've read some descriptions and hearing it from Ron, I got to see this thing.
Yeah. And Don Wilkerson, and then Wanda Medina, if you're listening to this, she's out in Arizona, Colorado now. I've known her for a long time. I thought I knew her work. I saw a couple of pieces, but a couple of pieces that she has in the show are going way back. I didn't realize how alike we were when I was in my stitching period, when I was doing my stitchery, which was almost like Alberto Buri or Antonio Taipis. It's like, oh my God, it would have been such a great opportunity to speak to somebody. Even the X's, one of the pieces that Don put in his review that's in the New Bedford Light, that piece with the X's. I mean, the X's became almost like my bloody mark,
Those do appear often in your work.
Yeah. And not make it up, and I discovered why, so on and so forth. But this is really what. Are we born like this, and then people try to rub it out of us or bleed it out of us?
I think the way society in our pocket of the world is designed, it's designed to snuff that out.
Absolutely.
And
it starts when the kids are just a few years old. They're already being told how to do things, what to do, and how not to be creative.
Yeah. And we're witnessing the I don't want to say the fallout, but we're witnessing the decomposition of that not being a sustainable practice long term. Because it was designed in a systematic fashion, the Industrial Revolution, and then making people in a very assimilated fashion of like teaching them the same things and then only including certain types of knowledge and not allowing other types of knowledge and skills into it, And when you have a system, it's efficient, but it's missing so many things and it doesn't run forever. Like nature, nothing stays the same. Everything changes. But when you try to force things to stay the same for an extended amount of time, it's naturally going to fall apart. But no, I think kids, we have that genius, curious, like ambition in them as they're exploring things, and they find like affinities for different types of activities. But if those aren't protected and nurtured, and they're not allowed to kind of discover that for themselves, there's a very high chance that they won't get to develop in those skills that they're really excited about.
I think it was my granddaughter went into homeschooling as we were neighbors of Rick and Jessica Smith, and I think it was either Abby or Vicky. They were in school and they came home in tears because of an art class, and they were told to draw the sky, to make a painting of or drawing or whatever. I don't know what the medium was, and they were disciplined by the instructor, saying the sky is not purple. And it was either Abby or Vicky who said, I was on the porch with my daddy last night and we were watching the sunset and it was purple. And I think, if I remember correctly, and I'm speaking freely, that's when Jessica decided, screw this. And she introduced us to the homeschooling system. And around the 4th grade, our granddaughter decided the S word in homeschooling is socialization. And, don't you want your children to socialize and be sociable?
That would be such a powerful concept for an exhibit these days.
Exactly.
Yeah,
think
the
about that.
dichotomy of that.
So, our granddaughter, who was highly intelligent, she was number 35 in her graduating class. She would have been higher, but calculus was her Achilles heel. Which probably still gives her night terrors because she's that kind of, I call her the Vulcan, okay? And she said, I want to go to public school. I want that experience. So in 4th grade, well, they jumped her. They tested her and they jumped her in a class. So she graduated from Voc at 17.
Wow.
And, but the first day of class, she came home in a snit like you wouldn't believe. Where's my Spanish? Where's my geography? Where's my history? What the hell are they teaching in that school? And it's those moments that you remember. But she decided she was going to plow through. I think she stayed in public school for a year or two, and then she went to a private school afterwards. Now, we don't have to talk about the period of time that we're in with the current administration in Washington and having a wrestling magnate running the education department.
I forget what the word was, but I was watching a video that artist Eric Isaacson had sent me, and in the video the guy was breaking that down, that wrestling aspect of it, and how all of the types of content that are going out there right now, the type of propaganda, and also the way that those that he put in charge of different positions, it has that wrestling, entertainment aspect to it. And then what I thought was interesting is whenever you're trying to be solemn, you're serious. If you throw humor at that, it totally destroys the solemn quality and it turns it into something that seems more outrageous. And so we have a little bit more of a, I don't want to say conservative because that's political, but you approach something that's comical with something serious, the serious doesn't carry as much weight as the comical. And so look at the alligator thing that's going on, all the merch with that. It's being presented from a very similar, entertaining component, but you try to counter that. If you try to get something serious, it falls flat to the audience.
It's the same stupid thing as, there was a really bad, horrible joke about Volkswagens. Why didn't they come with a bigger ashtray? It had something to do with Auschwitz? I mean, what the
yeah.
wrong with people?
Oh, yeah. It's brutally, visually outrageous by design. And what I find fascinating is the dynamic of that. How do you flip that? Because if you try to flip that with outrageousness, if you try to flip that with anger, it doesn't work. And so there's a couple of people that are talking about this on Reels across social media platforms. So I've been obsessively looking at how this has been kind of culminating and how people talk about it on all the main social media channels. And they each operate differently. They have their subtle differences.
Right.
YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and the Chinese app. I forget what it's called.
Right.
But they talk about it in different ways. But one thing they kind of all have in common, every time I see anything that's on the pro side, is it's got a shallow, ignorant
hateful,
comical,
well,
like unaware, like obliviousness to it, and it's annoyingly powerful because it has that comical quality to it. And it's delivered like candy from a stranger. Like they're not asking questions. So you try to counter that, and it's like you're killing the buzz instead of like trying to bring more awareness to all the atrocities that are happening. It's the way that it's a really fascinating dynamic and why it's so effective. And I'd really love to learn more about the artist and the activist and the ones who are countering these types of campaigns with a more effective approach, and how they're designing those campaigns so that it gets through to more people.
Yeah.
The thing that recently happened with the Epstein thing, like, there is no file or there is no case, that turned a lot of people, that lit up the fire over there.
hey, Rocky, watch me pull another one out of my hat. Yeah.
Right. And so I think we need, that was an anomaly, I think. It would be neat to find a systematic approach to designing ideas that are able to penetrate through that maniacal delivery that they're giving us through those other propaganda forms.
I think
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just before
Jump in, Max. Yeah.
we
No, go
switch
ahead.
back, I just want to say one thing on that. It's one thing to create a culture, and you described a deviant culture. It's a deviant culture. It's harming us generally, and they're presenting this culture in a positive light with the comedy that you said.
Freudian slip there, Max.
Countering culture. I don't even know if you can counter culture like that. You have to. It's more than a counter. You have to replace it with something. It's different than pushing back. You have to replace it with something, and we haven't done that yet. That's our
going to be
problem.
zeitgeist. That's going to be zeitgeist material.
We have Elyse Laurelle. Introduce yourself to the folks.
Hi, this is Elyse Laurelle. I just got done doing an event here at AHA.
What was it called, by the way?
It was Watercolors and Ink Kids Rule with Play Arcade, New Bedford, for AHA New Bedford.
Right.
Very simple.
Yeah.
And I'm also the program director for our summer programming at the Marion Arts Center, and for kids summer programming, I should say. And then I work out of the studio out of my studio space at the Co-Creative Center, where I run Elyse Laurelle Artworks.
Right.
And I have a paint night coming up at Cork next week.
Wow.
Excellent.
You're getting around.
Super.
So,
Elyse is a baddie. She's
Yeah.
doing so many things. She
Yeah.
has a solid art
Well,
practice,
and
community engaging,
Right.
business oriented.
Okay.
All right.
And I'm
Solid
gonna
brand that she's
sound
building.
sexist.
You're so nice.
I'm gonna sound sexist.
It's on point.
Take it.
But
you earned it.
What is it? Most of the most dynamic people in the community are women, which is enormously interesting. Only because there was a time where they weren't allowed financially, whatever it was, relationship-wise, whatever, the time to pursue these things because they had kids. One of my students, I'll never forget her at BCC. She stayed after class and she said, and she talked about this one young man.
Yeah.
If you let that little snot get away with not doing his presentation one more time, I'm going to report you to the dean.
Yeah.
And I was like, she said, I work 40 hours a week, and I have 3 children. Well, actually 2 and a husband, but 3 children. That's what she said.
Yeah.
And I still managed to get my stuff in on time. And don't I get you get my stuff first before everybody else? I said, yes, you do.
Yeah. Well, if I
My response to that is, it's about time.
Yeah.
All right?
Yes.
It's about time. I mean, come on. I don't want to do it all.
Yeah.
Jill Law is another one. It's like, holy moly,
For
does
sure.
she sleep?
Yeah. Well,
Good Carter.
if I can
Captain
say, like, for one, Kat is, like, also just one of those dynamic people. She helps me so much. Like, she should teach a master class for us artists in the community because she literally gives me the best tips. So thank you, Kat,
I
for
appreciate
you.
that.
And
Thank you so much.
And Dina, who runs the Co-Creative,
She's
and one
running.
of my good friends.
I just found out she's running a landscape service.
Yeah, she
What
just,
the hell?
Yeah, but to answer your question, thank you, because I'm a single mother, and I literally was program director at the Marion Arts Center for our art camp this morning. I'm getting ready for the August one coming up, All Things Art. I did this today for my own Elyse Laurelle artworks. That's hopefully going to be the basis for a grant application. I'm working on it right now. And then I have my kid here, who I also have to somehow...
which you're keeping an eyeball on what you're talking, right?
No, thankfully my son's hockey coach is with him right now.
Right.
But like, I'm going to be doing wash, rinse, repeat tonight, getting up early in the morning, I try to meditate for like 5 minutes in the morning.
So let's roll it all the way back to that one moment where, whether it was in your crib or whatever, that you realized or didn't realize, it just started doing stuff.
Yeah.
And then later realized, hey, this is pretty cool stuff. I still flash back to when we were living on the Upper East Side. I created a fleet of ships with watermelon rinds, toothpicks, and napkins.
Well,
and it was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, well, I've been on the podcast before, and I told you my grandfather in Detroit was a concert violinist and a painter, and he was kind of, even though he's, I don't want to get into it, but like Emperor Palpatine a little bit, a genius regardless. My mother took me to a summer kids program that was all art in a little hole-in-the-wall building in Detroit. Where there was an art shop, and then people that were aspiring artists in downtown Detroit, and they were our teachers, and that was like the biggest thing for me. It was that was like the seed. It was the seed. Like, they really helped me.
Was that the beginning of the College for Creative Studies?
It might have been. I cannot remember. I was so young, but it might have been.
An incredible story.
Yeah, but that was the seed. Like I remember thinking I want to be an artist, and those teachers, those people that were hustling young adults that were trying to make it as artists, and then teaching kids to fund their work, they made me believe in myself too. And so, that's one thing I love about New Bedford is we all, Kat, Dina, everyone, you guys, we all uplift each other, and I think that's why this is such a special community.
I've got to give Elyse a big shout out, because in trying to help promote a lot of other artists, there's artists that show up for themselves and do the work to make it easy to highlight them, and at least you do an amazing job. Like, I'll have artists that'll reach out and say, can you promote this? And I'm like, do you have a flyer? They don't have a flyer yet.
Yeah.
Do you have a date, a Facebook event for it yet? They don't have that. And so, you're showing up beyond doing the work and the organizing. You're mindful of the fact of, other eyes will find you when you make it easy for them to find you.
Yeah,
so your presence online, your sense of marketing for yourself, as well as managing everything, is really top notch.
Thank you. Well, and again, we're having girl power moment here, but
Excellent.
Kat, it can be really vulnerable, putting yourself out there and putting these things out and feeling oh God, what am I doing? Does this even make sense in the community? And is anyone going to take me seriously? Or the imposter syndrome? And just again, the fact that we have these spaces in New Bedford and people, and friends in this tight-knit community where we can uplift each other, I think it just really, really helps to make you feel okay, I have something valuable to share. And even if I'm a little scared making this flyer or asking, hey, can you promote this? I'll promote yours. I think it's really special that we have that here.
That kind of goes back to the Artist Index, this platform that you've created over the years, Ron, and given artists so many chances to highlight not only what are they working on, but who are they connected to, and what context are they connected. So you've created that amazing opportunity for a lot of artists over the years.
Well, thank you. I mean, I want to, we're not done. We'll never be done. It's a legacy project. I mean, we're at a point where I want to go back. I want to write a grant so that I can hire someone to go back and contact all these people that were on the first 200 podcasts and say, where are you now? What are you doing now?
Right.
And so we can get data and information from them. Our two biggest goals is to get that database going and to do the biennial publication. But I was just reminded by something that you said, Elyse, that I saw on art storefronts and I'm not thrilled with him. I had a friend of mine who, put up the money, put in the time, and he got bupkis out of it. But it says here, stats say that out of 80,000 artists, only 5,375, or 6.75%, are making a living from their art.
Yeah.
That is for the artists that are selling in galleries. They're also taking 50% haircut. That's where I find some umbrage with that. And not to defend galleries, but I had this 6-point plan, which I'm not going to go over now, but one of them was find yourself a gallery. They don't have to like you, but they should love your work to the point where they think, I can sell that stuff.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. And not like you as a person. Think, you suck, but I love your work.
Right.
And they're like, well, what the hell kind of relationship is that? It's called a transactional relationship.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to take 50% for you. Let them. They're going to be doing all my social media. Exactly. They're going to be doing all my publicity. I want studio time.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want to paint, and I want to be left the hell alone.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that exposure too, like just having the work up, I think is really, really important. I try to think about like exposure. I think like sometimes you just really need that to keep going.
You do.
Yeah.
And I love that philosophy, but it's not like a light switch where you just turn it on and that happens. There's more of a ramp, a progression to get to that. And so you have to show up for yourself. Enough, archive the work, be engaging in the creative community to give your work a chance to be seen, archive that activity, and then try to grow, depending on the quality of the activity. Like if it's an activity where it gets a lot of eyes, or if it's an activity that it's cataloged, or an activity where the organization who's hosting it is very engaged. Like there's so many factors, but then every time you have a certain type of activity with your studio practice, think in a graduating mindset, like, okay, what am I going to create next? Whether it's a body of work, where would I like to show the work? And keeping an eye out on different galleries that you could have that type of relationship with, but it's not something that happens just in one fell swoop or overnight.
Well, and again, it's a lot of theories, and I'm getting up there in age, and I'm still tweaking, and this old adage story about airline pilots flying from New York to Paris. They can't see Paris from New York. They look at their charts, their graphs, their radar, so on and so forth. And it is not a straight line. They're being buffeted by winds. They have to change course because of air traffic, so on and so forth. So it's a constant changing. But you have to be aware of your environment. You have to be, and one of the things is social media. And I found just getting you have to get out there.
You have to. We
used to make with the original Colo, and he's now in his third or fourth manifestation, but up to the second manifestation, we would all be there to support each other. And if we didn't show up, there'd be nobody there.
Yeah.
And you know me, I keep saying we need more walls, and we need more collectors and buyers. And Don Wilkinson, and we have this conversation every Saturday and Sunday. So how is that going to happen?
Well, that opens up a floodgate of subjects, because when you bring more people, more exposure to those walls, that creates more exposure.
Yep.
And then it opens up the other Pandora boxes, like people are concerned about things like gentrification and rent and all that, these other factors that come in, which I bring it back to the powerful presence of online, like social media.
Yes.
And you don't need to have the buyers coming in making rent go up. I mean, it's great to grow, and it's great for businesses to be able to open up, and it's great to create a symbiosis, a healthy symbiosis. But what's so fascinating about social media is the ones that take advantage of it in a very organic sense. They regularly highlight what they're doing in their studio. It's not a staged thing. It's just like working on this concept right now. I have a cool show coming up here, and they're just posting regularly, not frequently, but regularly. They start to build a following, and the following is akin to what you're talking about, Ron, where you're showing up, and then that following is a mix of artists, collectors, curators, who knows, and depending on which direction you take it, you could turn it into a more regular revenue. But then you have to be mindful of systemizing your, if that's a word, your social media activity, because that can be a whole nother job in itself. But it is powerful. It does create those walls that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, the Artist Index is a member of the South Coast BNI, Business Networking International. It's been around for about 30 years. And it's like, that's kind of like straight-laced business stuff. Well, there's the core values that they present. And one of them, the top one is the giver's gain.
Yeah.
And what that is you show up for other people, they'll show up for you.
Yes.
I went to this event, met this woman who said, I do this thing called Art After Hours. It's a real estate office. It's not a gallery. I just did it as a lark. It brings people in. It's in Marion. It's Bernadette Kelly from Bernadette Kelly Real Estate Group. And it's like, yeah, all right, we'll do it. Well, there was a woman named Susan Darwin who came in, saw my work, talked to me. She said she was going to be doing this program in Fairhaven. Almost single-handedly launched an event going on right now this summer. It's called the Fairhaven Summer Art Gallery and Tour.
Yeah.
Asked me to submit my work, accepted the work. My triptych is hanging. It's a self-promotion. is hanging at the Tapper Richards Design. Oddly enough, one of my former art history students, I'm walking the dog.
Yeah.
And this woman comes behind me. Is like, excuse me. I'm like, yeah. She said, I had you as a professor. I was like, yeah. You know how that is. You've been teaching for a while, right? And you're like going through your Rolodex in your brain. And she said, I'm Lauren Grant. I'm like, Lauren Grant from Lauren Grant Design? It's like, yeah. Oh, my God. Now, 2 of my pieces are hanging there. My abstract pieces, my triptych, my 12-foot by 5-foot triptych from Moby Dick is at Jennifer Richards, or from Tapper Richards Design. They're both interior designers. Yeah. Same town within blocks of each other. The point is that I didn't go looking for that. I didn't do any of that. So it is serendipitous. My friend Bob Brodesky was getting really depressed. This guy was like hanging in galleries in the Southwest.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden,
you didn't show your art at that real estate
you were there.
place
You were
in
there.
Marion.
Yeah.
That happened because it wasn't serendipitous. You helped make it happen.
I just hung my work up there. She asked me. I said, "What do I got to lose?"
You had the conversation.
Right.
There was back and forth involved here. Give yourself credit for what you did here.
Yeah.
Well,
you were very instrumental in being an action agent to helping make that happen, and all those things that you described afterwards that followed after the first step.
Max, that was perfect. I
That's
love that
true.
wording,
That's
action
true.
agent. That needs to be a hashtag, action agent.
That's
Because
the
what
perfect word.
Yeah, what I was going to say, Ron, is like you got to work with her as a student at one point forever ago.
Yeah.
And so every time you, like whenever
I must
you
have
engage
made
with
some
other
impression,
artists,
I guess.
you're engaging in a potential like partnership down the road.
Yeah.
Right. So like when I'm always looking at my students as like, are we going to collaborate at some point?
Yeah.
And so when I'm showing them foundations or whatever class I'm teaching teaching them not just like the skills and the materials, but like a collaborative communication pattern. Like, would you be reliable? I see you're really good at this. Would you be interested in this? Now they're like late teenager, early 20s, some of them older, but I try to have that conversation with them regularly. Like, what is this? Do you enjoy this? Could this turn into something in the future? And Elyse, I don't know like the age range that you get to work with, but you're also planting these amazing seeds with the workshops that you're having of all these different ranges, and they could turn into like hot collaborations. What did you call it again, Max? It was action
Agents.
Action agents.
Action agents.
That's something I think this area could actually kind of
Well, you're
marinate
one.
on.
You're
Well, this area could marinate on that a lot because I find one of the most common things that makes a collaboration not go as far as it could is there's not that action agent mindset happening. It's either like one transactional thing, or it's artists not necessarily thinking about what something could become. So when they show up to the potential collaboration,
we still have that closed-mindedness.
That's a thing that needs
we
to
still
crack
have this
open in this
negative.
area.
We still have a little bit of that negativity. I remember when I was I left for Portugal. There was that cloud of negativity here.
Well, it's short-sightedness. I want to say there's potential, but if you're blind, then you don't see.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
and then all of a sudden things started, to lift. That cloud started to lift. And people are like, we can. It's happening. And it's like, oh, well, how long is this going to last? Well, it's been going strong. And, I've been talking to Jonathan Darling, who is the publicity person, the PR person for Mayor Mitchell. And I spoke with Mayor Mitchell himself. It's like, I want you on the podcast. Why? I'll never forget, when you were elected, somebody ran up to us, a bunch of us, wherever we were, and said, oh, you got to check out the new mayor. He's got floor-to-ceiling artwork in his office. That's got to be a good sign.
Yeah.
And he laughed. He thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
But it's because it's, stone soup, which is our business model, but it takes a village.
No, and I will say, as somebody who moved here,
now, where did you come from now?
I came, originally...
you were from Detroit.
Detroit.
Right.
I came from the Providence area.
Okay.
After my divorce and just rebuilding and stuff, I was working as a floating art teacher for a social services organization in Cranston after doing, a RISD program, divorce, when I came out here, I was really, really hesitant, and that's probably just because of the mental headspace I was in myself. But it was sort of this community has so much to offer, and if you put yourself out there like that, again, the action
Agent.
and there we go. If you do that, this was a place where I found I could do that. I'm a really shy person, and I have some anxiety and PTSD I have to overcome all the time.
Right.
And this was a safe, this community and all the friends I've made here in the art community is a safe place. And it was almost like when I started to see I had all these healthy, stable, kind people here in this community cheering my artwork, where I almost was struggling to believe in myself. It was almost okay, I have nothing to lose, and I have these people at the Co-Creative Center here in the New Bedford community saying, oh, this is great, do this, do that, and I just started doing it, putting myself out here, and I was getting reciprocity from the community and friends here, and so I think if there was a dark cloud, I think it has definitely lifted, because I found a very safe space and home here where I could be a professional artist. And it was weird when I got to a point where I could almost start to I had a little bit of money from what I was doing with my workshops and my paint nights and the gigs I've gotten here, where I could support me and my son to a degree, and that was beautiful. And so I will say, to anyone listening, you can do it here. This is the place.
Well, I mean, Kevin Bacon came up with the concept of 6 degrees of separation, and Don Wilkinson actually wrote about it. He said, in this area, it's 3 degrees.
Yes! God.
But recently, Don and I were talking about it. He's like, it's down to 1 or 2.
Yes!
One now.
I'm starting
it's
to
absolutely.
realize everyone knows everyone.
And I've done podcasts with people, and it's it's almost like your lost brother or sister. It's are you kidding me? We've been walking this parallel path. We know everybody.
No.
But we don't know each other. How is that possible?
We'll find them.
We'll find them, yeah. No, one of the moms of the kids that came to the paint event I just had here at Play, her kids came to the Marion Art Center for a camp, and then it turns out she was the one that arranged the South Coast Almanac article about me in spring.
Wow.
She was like, oh, I was the one that laid that out. And I was like, oh. She's like, I know all about you. And I was like, oh. It's so cool, though.
Yeah, that is cool.
That's really cool.
It's like with my own wife, working at Spectrum Marketing Group, and we go to an event, and she, is all on a phone or emailing or texting or whatever, and doing her graphic design work, and she did these slates up here, and people will start talking to her, and it's the most amazing. It's you know her?
Yeah.
She's your wife?
Yeah.
People say, she's your wife?
Yeah.
And it's really
beautiful.
Well, Detroit, and I love Detroit because that's where Paul is from.
Yeah.
And I've told people that it's the biggest, it's the smallest big city I've ever been.
Yeah.
I'll ask my wife, well, do you know this person? Well, just because, a black, it doesn't mean I know everybody who's black. It's no, that's the point. The point is her network of friends is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and this one knows this one, this one knows this one, and this one knows this one. It's and you know what? When it hits the fan, there are people come out for you.
Yeah.
when you do something that makes you feel good, people are there to pat you on the back and root for you to keep going.
It's 100% true. And before I sign off, because I'm going to check in on my people, my son is thankfully with his hockey coach, whose son came, and I have 2 amazing teenagers who are counselors for me at the Marion Arts Center that agreed to come and help me tonight.
Great.
And they'll have memories.
That's the type of showing up. You show up, others show up.
That's a showing up. But that's part of the reason whenever something good has happened with my art career in this community, I thank Dina, Kat, Jody, all of my friends there, because I've been on this podcast before, all these great things, and the people in this community and my close friends, we lift each other up, and I have to, I never see it as just me. Yes, I know I've done something and put the action in, but I also just to have the support, of all of you, and again, seriously, that's what makes the village and all of this
you
work.
have this amazing strength to think about not only what you're working on and focusing on, but you think about in context to who you're working
exactly,
or what you're working on and who that's going to touch, who that's going to affect. So the way that you present it has that awareness in it, and I think that's an area that a lot of artists could grow in. There's a tendency as artists to be isolationist in a way, and you get to focus more on your work, but then when you're trying to network, when you're trying to get access to potential opportunities, that isolation then becomes an Achilles heel, which you do not have.
Thank you.
Pam Haas told me, so separated, so isolated, working from home, she decided to get a studio at Hatch Street. Because she would be with other artists. Well, what is everybody doing?
In their studio.
In their studios. And so we need more salons. We need more cafes.
I totally agree.
We need more mixers. And that's one of the things that we are working on now.
I think that's a great opportunity to mention the South Coast Artist Group. They have that down to a T. Really good group. It's a $20 application membership fee. They have open studios. They need to bring New Bedford back into the fold. It was originally designed to not include New Bedford because they thought New Bedford didn't include them, but they need to bring it back in the fold now. They have amazing tours that happen, Westport, Marion, all over the area.
It's a geographic issue, and somebody almost needs to buy in, because they do, what is it, Dartmouth, Westport, and then they do Tiverton and Little Compton. They can only fears it has to work. But New Bedford is so far apart. But now
they're a good group that does the long activities, though. That's why I wanted to mention
we
them.
could do New Bedford to Wareham, or New Bedford to Marion, no matter what.
So many other pockets.
But we need somebody to help subsidize that.
Well, I'm going to sign off really quick, but I just want to say thank you guys for what you do here. I want to say thank you to Kat, because, oh my God, I just love her so much.
You're amazing. You're doing the things. You're doing the things so well.
Oh, thank you. She cheers me on all the time and helps me. I want to say thank you to Dina, because she's like Kat, always my cheerleader. And to Jody at the MAC. Hopefully, maybe she'll listen to this at some point, but she's always giving me opportunities at the Marion Arts Center. So, and just for this event tonight at Play, thank you to Adam and Lauren of Play, and just New Bedford and AHA in general. And
it's almost like the creative community is almost like Cheers.
Yes, we're like Cheers. I feel like that's what it is. And
where everybody knows your name.
Yes, everyone knows your name. And I just feel like we're a family in a way, all of us, and here in this community, in this art creative hub where we're all trying to make it work. And it's really special. And it also means a lot to my son, too, because I think it helps him to see that as he becomes, it grows and matures. And
these memories are going to remain.
Exactly.
Take it from
me. So thank you.
Community can be really applied to other subjects too. So he's witnessing it in this type of world. So whatever he's interested in, he goes out in the world. He can find these kinds of communities there.
Exactly. So again, I just want to say I appreciate you all here in the South Coast community. Just thank you for being you.
You're amazing.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys. All right.
Great time.
She's throwing out the heart sign. I can't see.
Thank you.
It is audio, I mean, and that's one of the things too about the AHA nights when we do this, is that we try to stick to a subject or whatever, but it really is. I mean, when I have a conversation with a single artist, it's all about them, and we stay you stay focused on what it is that they're doing, where they come from, where they're going. But to have something like this where we can, like I said, they don't have this in school. The closest thing I could say would be crits. And there are people who hate crits, and there are people who love crits. And I love crits, and it sounds sadomasochistic, but if I don't get a good ass beating, it wasn't worth it. Because I need to be slapped into reality. I need to be taken out of that isolation. All those things are really, really important.
I had a really great crit in undergrad. I just transferred from community college, and I was in a painting 2 class. She gave us a monochromatic painting assignment, and I used alizarin crimson, and she told us not to, but I didn't hear that when I used it. And I remember when we were doing the crit, I was one of the last artists that she talked about, and she said, "This is an example of what not to do." And I'll never forget that moment, ever. She didn't explain why. She just said, "This is an example of what not to do."
Oh, no.
And it was a really rigorous program. This was UNC Asheville. Like, it's an interdisciplinary liberal arts school where you're writing Chicago-style papers for your art history classes on a bi-weekly basis, right? Meaning like every other week, and you're taking your studio classes and your other subjects. Like, I was interested in social psychology at the time.
Right.
So you're taking all these classes, and so it was such an amazing experience having feedback that just kept you active in the studio. Like, there was not really a right answer. She wasn't saying there was a right way to do it, but she had a really great way of saying something that would get to each student, and she kind of stylized her feedback for each student based on what she knew would work. So yeah, the crits, I think of crits, and I think of the ones that do a really great job asking you to look back at what you're doing and figure out what's working and what's not working.
Well, no, you just triggered, and that's what I love about conversation, because it triggers things. Bill Elliott, God rest his soul, one of the crits, is like, this is compositionally strong, your colors are a little sweet, but goddamn it, stop being such a cheap bastard and buy good paper, because you're doing really good work and you're putting it on this crap paper. And what he didn't realize, because he was a professor and he was getting a salary, was we don't have access to those kind of funds. Even though Arches and Reeves BFK was 50 cents a sheet back then. Yeah, I like last time I looked, it was like $15, $20 or something, which is insane. But then again, it's course correction, just like I talked about the airline pilot, right? So what do you guys see? Getting totally off the topic of kids rule, but then again, not really, because kids get to this point of consciousness where they start emulating adults, they start setting goals, whether it's conscious or otherwise. Where do you see us going next? Because the creative community hasn't collapsed like a lot of people thought it would, because we've seen so many what I refer to as silver bullet moments, like, oh, this is the thing, oh, this is going to be the, like the casino is supposed to be this, and this is supposed to be that, this is going to save us. It's not ever one thing. So what do you guys see individually? Max, what do you see as the next thing? I mean, on everything that's going on right now.
New Bedford?
Yeah, what do you think, what do we need to go to the next step? What are we ignoring that's in front of us to go to the next step?
I hate to be reductionist, but it's all economic driven, and if the New Bedford economy doesn't do adequate, we're not going in the right direction. I think right now it's very hard to tell really where we're going. I put a lot of hope and faith, right? Faith that the wind system, will
wind farms,
and drive the technology that the wind farms can provide in terms of technology support, experts, get brain trusts, get feeder in New Bedford of new demographic, if you will, bringing our people who are here and working hard every day and living in the city. It's a struggle. It goes back to the economic thing, I think, and and overlaying that is the political tensions. I'm optimistic, and I think what New Bedford does have, I think, in terms of potentiality, is a fantastic location. And the infrastructure with the railroads is a huge thing. I don't know. I've been watching what they're doing on the railroad. I mean, they just finished a spur going across North Front into some of the plants now, and I don't think they've had any railroad cars come down through there for 20 years or so.
At least.
Yeah.
At least.
And I saw the delivery of the things the other day. It was sort of exciting, and that's the kind of thing that, also the bulkhead, all the docks on the waterfront the work that's going on there, the drainage system, all this stuff is not sexy at all. This is boring.
But it's infrastructure. Yes.
But it is happening in New Bedford, and the leadership of what's in New Bedford, I think, has been very long-sighted, and went after the wind farms as an as an economic opportunity that really makes sense with our port and our location. I think that's, we were talking earlier about the community as the spirit of New Bedford. I think that's unique. I don't think you have any cities, at least in southeastern Massachusetts, that have the dynamic energy that New Bedford does. And, the New Bedford Museum. New Bedford has a downtown. It has a real downtown. People go to it, and mix up. So I'm ultimately I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic person, but I think that we've got a real hard thing to and it's economic. It's going to be the money. And I'll finish up with, we all know how hard everybody is struggling right now. It's at a tension level that's really, it's too much to allow creation of authentic new ideas that are inspiring. You need time and you need reflection to do that. And if I gotta, do 7 different million transactions, to stay in track, not to get ahead even. It's all about just staying, at the. So that's, thank you for the thing there.
Yeah,
I think that's powerful.
Go
ahead, Ron.
No, you go ahead.
What Max is talking about makes me think Phoenix Rising and lotus blooms. And so when you're in white knuckling, when you're under so much pressure and something has to give, something happens from that. There's like an alchemical thing that has to happen, in order to survive. Mm-hmm. I see bits of that happening in this area on the economic side and in the creative side. I can't believe we haven't mentioned this yet, but the thing that's going on with Star Store, which the website for that, starstorenb.org.
Or, unfortunately, on the opposite side of that coin, what the heck's up with the city council and the Z?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I can get input on the Star Store thing.
Yeah.
They're looking for input and feedback from people who care about whatever's going to happen to that building by asking people to fill out a survey of what they think should go into that building. And the website is starstorenb.org. The ones spearheading that, I know their Instagram account, it's ABC Boston. It's an organization that helps to
I'd love to be able to get them on a podcast. Yeah.
Old buildings.
Yeah.
And the guy that's over that organization, he recently helped rejuvenate a sound studio. They're very much boots on the ground. There's an administrative quality to them, but they're very much more like getting their hands and actually getting it done. Right. And then that's in partnership with, it's either the EDC or NB Creative. I'm pretty sure it's the EDC, but that's got a sense of it's not the Lotus, but it's got a sense of like, we have this big plot of like a building, and what are we going to do with it? And rather than talking about it, there's an organization that's doing something about it, and I think when you're under such stress, you don't have time to overthink. You have to act. And so when you're constantly like in a overextended state, and you kind of enter into like a fog, it's very hard to stop.
But survival mode will do that.
Yeah. It's very hard to stop until you like bottom out, and and then you have to have access to resources or help or connection, which is so important to help maintain in this area. This area has a lot of connection potential. There's a lot of pockets of people who do a lot of amazing things. I think it could be better networked. For example, things that are going on at Gallery X and at Steeple Playhouse. AHA does a really great job of marketing those side by side during the AHA night events. Things that are going on with the Z, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, City Council has voted to not fund them.
Okay. It'd be interesting to hear why they decided to do that, what they were thinking about that, and rather than to just demonize them, which is so easy to and so tempting to do, try to understand. And I think we're living in a time right now that is so polarizing. And so if there's a way to overcome that polarization reaction, I think that's a really strong step, because then it opens the door to getting new information on what's happening data-wise, which then allows for an updated idea or an updated approach or an updated anything, which then creates better results. But that's not something that's intuitively done. That's not in our nature to act that way. We tend to be very trigger happy with how we're going to respond to something, especially when we're under so much stress. But something I really appreciate about this area is it's got a mix of a strong creative community and a blue-collar nature. And when I think blue-collar, I think tenacity. I think of finding ways to do things, thinking outside the box. And so I think that's one of the things that makes this area so powerful and tenacious in itself. You look at how, like Jeff Glassman with the Hatch Studios, he's putting the artist in those spaces through a business-minded evolution, in that he's trying to promote Hatch Street Studios.
How many years now for them, by the way?
I don't know.
Because I'm thinking now, there was a point in time where there was no Hatch Street, there was no Kilburn. And I remember, I don't know what the time period was, but one of my dad's accounts was the Lefkowitz family, Larry and Steve Lefkowitz from Furniture City. And Steve was part of NFIB, National Federation for Independent Businesses. And we were talking back and forth. He says, I'm getting tired of this. Larry doesn't want anything to do with us. He moved to Florida. You know, this is a business that either their grandparents or their parents started. It's becoming too competitive. Even Mr. Alpert from Alpert Furniture said it's no longer selling furniture, it's building furniture stores. I don't want to do that. So what do we do? And I said, well, artist studios. So we started talking about that. And then Luis Villanueva calls me up and said, I'm in the shower. I hear my phone ring, and he says, I never get out of the shower to answer the phone, but something told me, get out of the shower and answer the phone. He said, it was my landlord who said, I just sold the building. He was on Center Street. You have to vacate in whatever amount of days. Now, that was one hell of a gallery, a shotgun gallery, like traditional gallery. And had incredible shows there. There's some notoriety with that show that was like censored and all that other stuff. And he said, what do I do? And I said, well, go talk to Steve Lefkowitz. So he did, and that was the second manifestation of Colo Colo Gallery. And from that, it started to grow, and then the Lefkowitzes sold the building to, I think, the Murphys or Murrays or the people who own it now. And now we've got a north end component, and we have a south end component, which is tough because this is a peninsula. So in order to do anything down the south end of the city, it's destination driven. You have to. It's a terminal city. Right. You drive to one end, you got to turn around and drive out. Right? So 10 years, 15 years ago, we didn't have any of this. So look how far we've come, and now we've got a possibility of a third place. That is absolutely mind-blowing.
Well, what you were just saying a second ago about the peninsula city, and we have active agents on the north end and south end on the creative side. Wayfinding. It makes me think of wayfinding. People who are coming here from whichever direction, them knowing that they could access these types of spaces and those types of experiences is extremely valuable. Hatch Street does a great job marketing open studios when they do it, and they get a good number of people that come through. Kilburn's still kind of creating a cohesiveness within itself,
I don't
but it's
know
developing.
who is running the show. The last person I knew suddenly, I don't want to use the word disappeared, but suddenly vanished.
Yeah.
And
they have a really great return on communication when you send them email and you're specific on what you're wanting to communicate.
Right.
They also work with New Bedford Guide, who's stationed at, and so it helps them do their marketing. So you're very you can send them an email and saying, there's this coming up, can you please market it? But they do it independently. They treat the entities within Kilburn independently, whereas Hatch treats the entirety of it as a single unit.
It's holistic.
Which is really
holistic.
And then
Hatch,
Hatch, even though the parking lot is small, it's still for Hatch, whereas Kilburn's parking is constantly challenging.
Right.
In a sense, you've got
they have the antiques parking lot, which is for the antiques business, and then you've got the property across the street, which is for what was referred to as once upon a time as welfare, Department of Welfare. There's a dollar store or something. It's changed.
Right.
And it's still the little restaurant that's in the corner.
It would be neat to see a collaboration to allow them
it's
to
a
have
rough,
access
it's
to
a
that
rough
parking lot. But
street to
that
cross,
collaboration is
too.
a good example of what we were talking about earlier with New Bedford being a three-person, relations away type, which there's a little bit more of a scatteredness at Kilburn, so they're not exactly focusing on that at the moment, but they are growing. And then the downtown scene, of course, you've got all these amazing business owners and all these amazing venues that are open to the idea of embracing tourism, the idea of embracing people coming to check out New Bedford. You've got the new apartment that the mayor just did the ribbon cutting event for a couple of days ago.
Custom Square.
So there's that mindset of growth in that sense, but there's also the need to think about sustainability like Max was talking about. I wish I could list a few businesses off the top of my head who sold shovels when there was a gold rush.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like a moment in time for something like that when you see a large growth in an area and you find a way to help, in that growth, or if you see potential problems that could erupt and then find ways to solve the problems before they erupt. It's definitely a time for people to be looking in those different directions.
Right, and then there's got to be new formulas, new directions, new approaches. Jeff Palmer, who is better known as Pixel Palmer, who came from Rhode Island, he went into the Kilburn. The guy does incredible stuff. It's really funky, fun, tongue-in-cheek. I mean,
he did a really great design that said "No Kings" and it had the King of Spades design, but it has a skull in place of the person's
and he
face,
can get
and it was
super
on
serious.
point.
He can get super serious, and he can get Ryan Noons, our editor, and he's listening to this right now because he's probably editing this right now. He wanted to get one of those fried egg tables, fried egg lights. They're just fun things. You can't find them anywhere. He's going to be shutting down as of August 4th. He's not getting into traffic there. So I suggested to him, I hope this is a good suggestion, maybe you ought to consider wholesaling these things. Instead of trying to be this chief cook and bottle washer, designing, manufacturing, selling, shipping. I'm sure there's a lot of shops in the area, like little boutiques and little unique places that would love to carry this line of goods that you've got.
Absolutely. His work is top-notch craftsmanship.
Yep.
It's extremely conversation starter friendly.
Yep.
It's got all sorts of thinking outside the box with the type of content that he's incorporating into his work. It would easily fit into boutique shops in the area, which that makes me think of Providence. There are a lot of boutique shops tucked away in different sections of the city, and most of the time, I love checking out boutique shops because I always wonder where are they getting their products from. Are they things that were made by hand in the area, or are they bought overseas? And so I visited a couple of them earlier today, actually, and both of them were created by local artisans in the area. One of them was on Project Runway, and they opened up a really cool fashion line in their store, and they welcome other artisans to share their designs and their products. So having places like that in this area, and they're small, they're little small pocket, hole-in-the-wall size. They do a really great job branding them.
Oh, that's is it the tailor shop that does that?
Really great example, Purchase Street, absolutely.
And then there's another place next door, a couple of doors down, New Bedford Textiles or Fibers or whatever it is.
Yep, NB Fibers.
And then there's Meigs Lund, who did the runway show at Gallery X.
Yes.
So we have this incredible vivacity. That's from the Glass Menagerie and Katharine Hepburn. I'll never forget that line. Vivacity. We have this incredible stuff. We've got the railroad coming in. We were all just interested about it coming, of us going, it coming in so we could go to Boston. Then we realized, hey, people are coming here as well as we're going there. And there's a bunch of things that we're working on right now with this realization. So I think maybe just when we think we might be teetering on the end of the cycle or whatever, we're at the beginning of another ramp up to something bigger.
Absolutely. Things definitely in cycles, and we are at the beginning of another one. And there's always also multiple cycles overlapping with each other.
Yeah.
Things are not.
Well, it's to me, it's the Vitruvian wave.
Yes.
It's
or
a
that
constant
Mobius
thing.
Strip.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there's definitely new things happening. There's that bubbler place that opened up, Anthe.
New Bedford, is it New Bedford Bubbles?
I don't.
It's
not called
above.
New Bedford
It's above
Bubbles.
from
It's like
Kettle Black, right?
It's above Kettle Black. Yes,
Yeah.
that place just opened up.
It's
I can't
a
remember the
wine
name of
bar.
it.
It's a wine bar.
But
right.
it's a type of destination that attracts people who are wanting to go out, have
Right.
a good time with some friends. They're naturally going to be hungry. Maybe they're going to want to have some sort of entertainment. Maybe
Right.
it's like a getaway of some sort, like location. And so you look at those holes that need to be filled, or the types of services that might be in demand as they're having that type of experience. The neighboring type services that opens up for possible business potential. You look at I know the Star Store is not here yet, but if you realize that type of space is going to be opening up, the types of skills that are going to be needed to help bring that
hopefully
to life.
we've got the walls down there. We've got a gallery that's already there. Maybe that I keep saying we need more walls. We need more buyers. We need more collectors. We can't. It's a three-legged stool. Okay. Buyers and collectors aren't going to be able to come in. What are they going to look at? Miami has Wynwood. It's become a tourist destination. People are surviving. Thank you, kind sir. Much appreciated. Thank you, Garcon. Or Garcon.
I think that also kind of brings it back to the online presence. People find out about things online. The way that algorithms work, they connect people with what they're interested in, which then creates an opportunity for business owners and creatives to more clearly articulate themselves online so that they can get plugged into those particular algorithms that would help more people find them, like their ideal customer find them, their ideal target audience.
I mean, I wish my dad was still alive. I mean, he was totally unschooled, as people have heard me say before. He was profoundly dyslexic. He was considered an idiot. Never finished school. He was a functional illiterate. It was a secret he kept all of his life, and yet every job that he had started off as a menial laborer and ended up in supervisory position management. And then he started his own business. And I remember using him as a case study when I was teaching marketing at UMass. He just had that knack. He was an artist in his own right. He wanted to be an architect. Okay? But he had this ability to see gaps in things. And he also had the ability to see bridges in things that other people didn't see. And like I said, he somehow got a hold of a list of the Congregation of Trefereth Israel and ended up with a majority of the congregation started a janitorial contracting business, doing their homes, doing their business, and back in those days, what they used to refer to as the summer colonies in Dartmouth, Michon Point, Saltus Point, Nonquit, Silver Shores. So it was a threefer. For every client he had three, and then the word spread from one person to another. And it was really simplistic, not complicated whatsoever. And I wonder what he would say looking at this, like, what are we missing? What are we not seeing? Because we've got our nose so close to the trough. We're grunting along there, trying to get our 3 squares a day. What are we not seeing? And, and Don Wilkinson and I have this conversation nearly every week. It's easier said than done. How are we going to bring in these collectors? How are we going to bring in these buyers? And there's a difference between the two. collectors collect. These are serious art buyers. They're buying because they see futures. They're buying for the love. I mean, it's almost like an addiction. And then you've got the buyers who are just like, I want something to hang over my couch. I want something that matches the drapes. You know, we make fun of that, but you know what? If it doesn't match your drapes to your couch, it's revenue. And once that painting or that sculpture or whatever leaves your studio, it's not yours anymore.
I think that we have a really strong nest of value in our area. Working on the Siren Project strongly now for a year, I've been exposed to some really amazing communities across the country of different sizes, varieties, and focuses. And the ones that stick out, I'll name a couple of them. There's the Workhouse Arts Center in Virginia. There's also the Virginia Art House. There's one organization in Austin that host fairs that make it easy for people to start buying and collecting art, like breaking down that barrier of intimidation. There's organizations that have different focuses, and they have different levels of cohesion in their operation, but those three that I was just mentioning, they had a solidarity within what they wanted to achieve, and then they networked themselves in such a way to go after achieving those goals with different skill sets that either members of the organization or partners of the organization are all aiming to do with their own skill sets.
So let me just jump in here that to follow up with the question.
Well, what I wanted to kind of say with Ron, what he's talking about is like, what are we missing, and like, is our nose too close to be able to see it?
The point is, though, that there's no one answer, and we're not going to figure it out. Okay,
right.
There's no way to say this is the way to do it. Even for your own self, there's no way to know what's going to be working for you tomorrow.
Right, you're not going to find like the magic thing that solves it all. But
exactly.
You still
but now
there's a
variables.
mechanism.
But what she said was the mechanism, the process of what works for a particular group at a particular time in a particular world. And it's all going to be socially and experimentally unique to each situation. And I think we've talked about in New Bedford what elements are particularly strong to support what we're talking about, which is artistic development and business success, really, in the artistic field. And that's got to be a New Bedford story that we figure it out, okay? And we can take ideas, and then we can try some of the ideas, and then does it work?
Right.
And so it's like the desire for the silver bullet or the answer, or what's the equation, right? What's the super sauce? That doesn't exist. That's a pipe dream. But the practicality of the situation is getting people together at this time and place with the people, again, with the group that's here, the spirit that's here, and come up and collectively, right, and get back to the village, because no one alone's going to do it. It's going to be a collective action that's thoughtful and based upon the conditions that we find it in.
So I'm going to use AHA Night as a good example for that. AHA Night's a really great example of a collective action because they're constantly promoting individual efforts of creative projects that are occurring.
Right.
And then pair that with...
And it's working in New Bedford.
Yes. And then pair that with individual entities knowing what they're doing and staying within that.
Yeah.
Like not branching so far out. Like with murals, for example, the mural company that I own. I only do murals of a certain size, and I do figurative murals. If it's not within a certain size and it's not figurative, I don't apply. I don't bother. But I do make it a point to focus on being able to execute those types of murals to a high degree, good quality, good craftsmanship, and that it lasts over time. Like the jazz mural, it's going on its 5th year, and it's still like looking really good.
Yeah, and it was on the Culture Show.
Yeah, it was so neat.
Yeah.
To hear my name on NPR, I was like,
I contacted Jared.
Incredible.
I contacted Jared Bowen, and comes to find out they've been down here several times.
That doesn't surprise me. This area is incredible.
Yeah.
But going what I was saying, specify what you do so that when you're in a community setting like AHA Night events and they're throwing out the blurb about what you do, it's very easy for people to understand. So that gives the individual creative business entities a chance to really identify and distill down what do they provide, how do they provide it, so that it can get passed along very easily. And then there's the regular homework, that comes from being a business owner, like maintaining the business, the overhead, marketing, all that jazz. But just knowing what you're doing as far as like that very specific service that you're offering or that very specific product. Who was it that's constantly coming to our area? Again, we were just talking about who has a show on NPR regularly.
The Culture Show, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Social Proof, it's there.
Right.
Build local and global bridges. We were just talking about.
I just did a podcast with Laura Lorenzo Harrington, who you probably know her from the Fitness Boutique. She and I, the first time we got together, we were running parallel lives. We were like the tracks on railroad tracks, the left track and the right track, and the ties were these people that we knew.
So it's there.
But we never knew each other, which is weird, right?
Number 6, offer tiers of entry.
Okay.
Number 7, cultivate relationships, not just sales.
Bingo.
We're talking about that.
Yep.
And that's it. So we're already doing it.
We are totally doing it.
But we have to amp it up. We have to define it a little bit more.
I'm going to ask how we are already
because
doing this.
okay, people are going to buy your work, Kat, because part of your story, and you probably are sick of hearing this already, part of your story is that you were one of the production artists on Loving Vincent. So now people can say, oh yes, well I bought this piece from Kat Knutsen. Oh, did you know that she was the production artist on the Loving Vincent? Would that painting have sold had they not had that little... And it's like, well, my painting stands on its own. But people, I've said this a bazillion times in the show, J. Peterman, from the J. Peterman catalog. People want things that make their lives the way they wish they were. Okay?
Yes. Oh, actually, you're breaking into something really powerful right there. So what's going on in the mind is what the eyes see. So you look at what's going on in the minds of so many, and you look at the habits, like, how people are responding to things. So, and then what is art known for doing? Like the church has been doing this forever. It's known for orchestrating ideas.
And it's
that
also
go into
instructional.
Right. And so if it has the capacity to do that, imagine the capacity to encourage the creative community in all its different skills and services and ways to help carve ideas out that then create the society that they want. Imagine the plethora of potential and the work that would have to go into that. Okay. I asked ChatGPT what you said. I want
to print out of that. Yeah.
I want to print out.
So I asked, we're already doing this. How do we amp this up? Number 1, or I'll give the description first. If you're already doing these things, then amping up means moving from visibility to irresistibility.
Wow.
Hello, ChatGPT. Turning interest into consistent engagement and purchases. Here's how to elevate what you're already doing. Refine the brand magnetism. Number 2, make buying the easy and emotional choice. That's annoyingly correct. I say annoying because when you go for the emotions, it's not always like you look at the campaigns that are working right now and the way things are unfolding, it's because they're going in that emotional direction. Number 3, curate like a gallery director, not just a promoter. So like you were saying, people are those collectives that are starting where people invest in a single piece, and that piece is seen as valuable because, and the way it's presented is more from the point of a gallery director, not just a promoter, which makes sense because promotion is a one and done. Like do this thing and then it's over, now do the next thing. Number 4, target buyers where they are, not just audiences. Number 5, raise the stakes creatively. Number 6, nurture high caliber word of mouth. And that's it.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
No.
I'd love to be able to get printouts of both, both questions and both answers.
Absolutely. We should do graphic design lists and then just put the South
Almost-
Coast Artist
almost
Index
like an
on
old-
them.
almost
and
an
then
old
Put
poster
them on social
campaign.
media.
Yeah.
And then do a series of reels that's number one examples of, and
Right.
then highlight all the organizations that are already doing this.
Right.
And then other organizations are going to want to jump on top of that, on top of the business and
What was
creatives.
an old-fashioned
The campaign of campaigns.
An old-fashioned poster program. The Polish are really good at it. Political, for their political posters and so on and so forth. Why shouldn't it be the same thing for art? To create this feeling, this vibe. I mean, the WPA. We have historic precedents to help guide this. I mean. Again, we had this conversation yesterday during a photo shoot with Roger Andrews, and we have, this is a little bit of self-promotion here. Scott Bishop is going to be doing a podcast series called The Lost Artist. It's grant-funded by New Bedford Local Cultural Council, partially funded. It's called The Lost Artist of the South Coast. So I gave him a bunch of obituaries that I've been collecting for years. And one of the obituaries was from a gentleman, I think it was from Wareham, Lou Sayer. Lou Sayer was in, and again, I'm really ignorant when it comes to what universe is Batman? Is it the Marvel universe?
I should know this. I don't. Where's
All right.
Adam? He'll know.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Scott was really amped up about this whole thing. So I'm telling Roger this. I said, you worked for Hasbro and you did superheroes, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, yeah, boom, 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 boom. He names all these people like, are you kidding me? They're from around here? Yeah, a couple of them are still working. One or two died, but they all know each other. I said, oh, my God, you got to talk to Scott. And again, way back when in this podcast, we started talking about networking, connections, and degrees of separation. And I always got to bring up the naysayers on why is this important? George Santayana, those who don't know history will be forced to repeat it. Why ignore the lessons just to learn them all over again and to moan that I should have paid attention so I wouldn't be moaning that I should have paid attention?
It makes me think of a fork in the road approach. One side, you go
Yeah,
after
I
trying
came to a fork in the road, so I took it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like one side of the road, it's like you either try to help them remember, or the other side is forget trying to help them remember, like help them know what they're capable of, and like reward the things that have a more positive outcome collectively, which both are very difficult to do.
We got to wrap this up, unfortunately, and that's one of the things I love about this, that when we do, by the way, folks, June was a complete wash. June actually made the 1 year anniversary of us starting these live from AHA, which was Jeff Watton's brainchild. Okay, his first brainchild was doing the podcast, or forcing me to do the podcast. Second brainchild was to do this, and that gave us a public face. People now like, oh, you're the guy, and blah blah blah. But it was a total washout because all the activity was happening west of us. Anything up Union Street pretty much sucks all the life out of anything that's happening down here.
So with AHA, you let them know ahead of time, and then they list it. And then once they list it,
we did. It was
social,
it was
reminders.
just too much. So we had an embarrassment, or AHA had an embarrassment of riches. They had the big thing happening, with the LGBTQ at City Hall. They had Gallery X. And again,
Playhouse.
Yeah, Steeple Playhouse. So it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
There was also
oh my
a
God,
good turnout at the Jazz
I
Mural.
feel like Bernie Sanders. With my hand gestures. It was wonderful. But it also gave us a little bit of time to reflect. It's like, okay, so what do we do next? How do we take this journey that's been going on for a year and bring it up to another level? And we're always looking for another way to engage with the community. We're talking about salons. We're talking about cafes. Maybe that's the tweak is going to be. We're not going to stick with the AHA theme, not because they're no good,
right?
But when we can, we do. When we can't, we won't.
Well, when it comes to AHA, what comes to mind is if there's like a simple set of flyers that are cut out, like 4 parts per page.
Right.
And there's a design on there that highlights the fact that this is a very open, prompt, creative-based conversation. And then those flyers are made available on the AHA table. Like, because the table of AHA is very inclusive. It's fabulous. And so if you have something that you're wanting to bring more, like, eyes to, you know, and then making it easy, like even ChatGPT said, make it easy for people to get access.
You're going to have a conversation over coffee with our volunteer development director, Max Wickemeyer. I'm sorry.
I am taking all of this in.
I know. He's like a sponge.
So.
He's a sponge. Yeah.
Great ideas. I want to talk about the Star Store more, maybe next time. But
it's still receiving a lot of input. Biggest thing with the Star Store, go to www.starstorenb.org, fill out the survey so that it helps create something that's truly reflective of what the area wants and needs. That's what it's going to do. It's going to develop based on what input it gets.
Right. And I know it's totally off our radar. Financially we can't do it. We are a nonprofit. We are seeking donations. We are going to be launching our first fundraiser, official fundraiser, which is a premium program. If you donate $50 to the Artist Index for us to continue our programming and expand our programming, you'll get a T-shirt. And the T-shirt commemorates our 200th episodes, or 200 episodes that we've did. It's already going back months now, and it has the names of all the artists that appeared.
Do you want to find your name on it?
Yeah,
I found it earlier. It's on the lower left-hand side.
Right.
Good.
And that's one of those things people want to find that. They want to find that.
It's such a good cluster of names too. It's got a time capsule quality to it.
It does. So the point is that you wear this T-shirt. Our sponsors, which is Play Arcade, Basque Cannabis, and Sixes and Sevens, it's almost like flash mobs. We're going to announce, okay, on Tuesday night at Sixes and Sevens on the whatever the date is, between 6:30 and 8 o'clock, buy one hot dog, get one hot dog free. If you're wearing a T-shirt, it's going to be a mix and mingle with artists. Come on down. It's just a kickback, relax, have a little bit of fun. We'll document it, take it from there. But
what do you think?
I think that if that's consolidated in the delivery, it's perfect. Wear the shirt, get a free hot dog.
Right. And then here, Adam and Lauren are still working on what their offer is going to be, what their. But the point being is that what Jeff did with us being here, he gave us that visibility. It put a face on the nasally voice, right? It put a face on our organization. The Star Store would be perfect for us to have an actual. We reside in Spectrum Marketing Group at Howland Place, okay, in Jeff's business. But to have our very own little space in Star Store now gives us another level of visibility, and hopefully even like a little gallery space, letting the cat out of the bag. We're concluding our Gallery X documentation project. We're pulling 10 of the best posters ever produced, just because it's a hard thing to do, 10 out of 35 years. And we're going to be offering reprints of them for sale, to help raise funds for Gallery X, and for us. And if we had our own place, we could have them on the wall so you could see them with QR codes and order your copies.
You should make a book of them.
A book of them would be, or a calendar of them. There's so much that we could possibly do. But that's us, and we want to leave footprints. And we want to leave footprints that Jeff's children and Jeff's grandchildren can follow. Because we're following in the footprints of Mary Jean Blasdale, who had this crazy idea of documenting every artist that she could find that ever lived, worked, was born in New Bedford. And we've expanded it to the South Coast, and our mission has just begun. And this kind of conversation is not just three of us, like, smacking our gums, that kind of thing.
Yeah, hopefully you can move it forward.
Yeah, let's
Move it
go
forward.
forward. Are you good? You ready?
I'm excited.
Yep.
Me too.
Beginning of the next chapter.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Who knows? Onward, upward. And
Yay.
as I say with our regular podcasts, take care of yourself. Be kind to other people. We're all here to be of service to each other. Bye-bye.
We'll see you next week for another episode of the South Coast Artist Index podcast. To learn more about the South Coast Artist Index, visit theartistindex.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.